I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that.
This one's wife. Does Harry enjoy the humiliation? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Now, there are some people who get a kick out of being humiliated. There are those in the dom-sub dynamic where being submissive towards somebody works for them. I have mentioned before, but it's worth repetition, that a number of years ago I had an intimate partner secondary source. And one of the things that she wanted me to do was to tie her up and spank her with my hand, with a paddle, with a cane. It aroused her sexually. But part of what went on with regard to this submission to me was naturally she was easy to control. She couldn't go anywhere. She was bound. She was providing me fuel by way of her responses. The fact that she was aroused as a consequence of what I was doing provided me with fuel, and there were large amounts of it because it was proximate. But for her, the reason that she got off on that was as a consequence of the fact that she was a single mother with an autistic son who demanded a lot of her time. Therefore, she had a huge amount of responsibility. She did have other children, although they were older and able to do more things for themselves. But she had to earn an income, she had a house to run, and she had a son that was rather demanding with regard to the challenges that he faced. Accordingly, she explained to me that hour or two that she spent with me being spanked meant that she didn't have to think about anything. She could just be in the moment. That she didn't have the burden of any responsibility or decision-making whatsoever. The ability to submit to somebody else freed her, made her have a sense of liberation. I found all of this rather interesting, and it made sense, because, of course, there are instances where certain narcissists engage in submissive behaviours, and you might think, well, surely narcissists would want to be dominant. Well, many are, but there are other narcissists that like to play a submissive role because it allows them to make the decision to relinquish control for a period of time. Therefore, because it's their decision to do so, they maintain control. And of course, because they are the one that wants the other person to humiliate them, that enables them to receive fuel as a consequence of that person engaging in that humiliating behavior towards them. Thus, the narcissist's needs are met, even when they adopt a submissive stance. Thus, that was the reason that that particular woman, and she was empathic, sought humiliation by my hand, quite literally. It was for the purposes of alleviating herself of the burden of responsibility, to be able to throw off the shackles of having to cater for so many other people, to be there for them. It allowed her to live in the moment and feel that sense of escape, if only for an hour or two. But what about Harry? After all, here was a man, prince of the realm, did more or less what he liked, lived a privileged lifestyle, undertook his charity work, undertook ceremonial matters, of course, particularly affected by the death of his mother at a young age, placed within a gilded environment where many decisions were taken away from him, and yet he was more or less able to do as he pleased within those certain confines as a consequence of privilege, wealth, and connection. He was also largely well liked by the public, both in the United Kingdom and abroad. He was seen as a playboy prince, a little bit wee, a little bit wah, a slightly refreshing change to the more uptight William, who of course had to be more sensible because he was going to be king. Life looked fairly sweet for old Has. Attendances at Bonkers Night Spot, getting down and having some scran at abracababra thereafter, snorting the drugs, shagging the birds, playing a bit of rugger and polo, etc. All pretty good. And then look at him now. He's prodded. He has a hand in the small of his back. He's guided as to where he needs to be. He stands there, looking nervous, fiddling with his ring finger. He's pushed in front of. He's placed second. He's not allowed to join the lineup. He's moved out of the way. He's interrupted. His handshakes are interrupted by someone hugging the person that he's trying to shake hands with. He's lost friends. They don't bother wanting to come and see him any longer. He's isolated from family. He's in the sustained devaluation, where he's subjected to various unpleasant behaviours, some public, but mainly behind closed doors, by virtue of silent treatment, insult, belittlement, invalidation, circular conversations, gaslighting, possibly even physical attack. He certainly, as of late, looks very different to the man that he was before. He's being humiliated. Once a strutting ginge, he's now just the ginger poodle, on a leash, told where to go and how to behave by his handler. And this has caused somebody to ask me, HG, is Harry a masochist? Is he actually getting off on how he's being treated by this one's wife? Is he enjoying this humiliation? Well, if he is, I would suggest that he would need to tell his face, as he repeatedly looks miserable, unhappy and cheesed off. Remember how he looked at the UN meeting when he was sat waiting to speak? Really didn't look happy to be there, alongside this one's wife. The look he gave her at Whistler when she was gripping his arm. The look when she wouldn't let him in line for the photograph in Nigeria. Also when she grabbed the bouquet. Regularly, he looks cheesed off. Remember the concert that they were at? He looked like he was in a right mood on. Regularly, he's photographed looking disgruntled, sulky, and unhappy. Therefore, there's a funny way of showing that he's enjoying this humiliation. Now, we all know that Harry is engaged in some shitty behaviours himself. But the fact is, he does not enjoy this humiliation or being abused, because what you're actually witnessing isn't somebody who's a glutton for punishment, isn't somebody who's a masochist, but is quite simply the victim in the traditional narcissist-victim dynamic. She's drawn him in. He thought he'd found the woman of his dreams, particularly after he was struggling to find somebody. Completely enamoured with her and fallen in love with her, he proposes with undue haste, contrary to the caution thrown towards him by members of his family, and thinks he's making the right decision, as invariably the victim always does, because they can't see what they're dealing with. They're blinded by their emotional thinking. Thereafter, sustained evaluation follows, and he is humiliated. He has fallen far from the lofty perch that he once adopted. He has had his wings clipped. He is now told where to go, who to be, and what to do. This then asks, well, hang on a second, HG. If he doesn't enjoy it, why doesn't he go? Why not just get out? Why not remove himself from being abused? Those of my viewers who have been the victim in a narcissistic dynamic will attest to it's not as easy as just walking away. That there are many things that get in the way as a consequence of emotional thinking, which causes fear, anxiety, uncertainty, practical concerns. All of that's generated by emotional thinking, which keeps a victim in situ because they are addicted to the narcissist. They're addicted so that they want to return to the golden period. Remember, Harry's relationships had largely been unsuccessful. He'd failed to get somebody. And then along comes this woman who puts him on a pedestal, makes him feel like the king that he's never really going to be. And he thinks, jackpot! Not only does she apparently care about him, makes him laugh, shows an interest in what he talks about, likes the things that he likes, and gives him lashings of spicy poontang, she'll let you do anything. He thinks, this is brilliant. She's even better than Catherine. I really have got pay dirt here. And because of the golden period that he's given by the narcissist, it's addictive. He wants it. And then when it goes, he wants to get it back. And of course, periodically it does come back. Not because of anything that he's done, but because this one's wife doles out respite periods to him. And he thinks, yes, it's coming back. And then it goes. So he tries to get it back again. It's also the case that he also wants to solve the problems that exist between the two of them, that he doesn't just want to give up. It may also be the case that he wants to keep the family unit together if you accept that the children exist. There is also, as I mentioned recently, the fact that he's also driven by shame, that he doesn't want to admit to his family that he's fucked up and the marriage is a dead duck. So it isn't the case that he enjoys being humiliated. He's being abused, and he doesn't enjoy that at all. Indeed, there are occasions where it causes him to fight back. But the fact that he remains in this relationship doesn't demonstrate that he's enjoying it. Indeed, his general countenance shows that he's not, and there are reasons, which I've briefly touched on, as to why he hasn't left so far. And therefore, that's what keeps him in situ, perhaps giving the appearance that he actually enjoys it. There is no doubt that early on, when she was almost playing the role of mummy to him, that played a part in the dynamic, but that was a benign manipulation, and therefore he embraced it. Now, he's been the sustained devaluation, and he doesn't leave as a consequence of not understanding what he's dealing with and the power of his own addiction to the narcissist generating that emotional thinking. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.